The slap came before the introduction. A guard hit the butler, so hard his glasses skidded across the marble floor. No one flinched. No one looked. They just kept their eyes forward, hands folded, breathing carefully, like people who had learned that witnessing trouble was the same as inviting it. Rosie watched the glasses stop spinning near her foot. She didn't pick them up. Not because she didn't want to. Because she understood immediately, in the way that people raised around danger always understand, that kindness here would cost the butler more than the slap did. She left the glasses where they were. New one. A guard pointed at her without looking at her. Stand in the East Hall. Don't speak. Don't move. Don't touch anything. Rosie followed him in silence. The compound was enormous. Cold in the way that expensive places are cold, not from poor heating, but from the deliberate removal of anything warm. No photographs. No flowers that looked chosen with feeling. Everything was placed to impress, not to comfort. Rosie had cleaned houses before. Rich ones. But those houses still had personality buried somewhere under the money. This place had none. It had been emptied on purpose. She stood in the East Hall for 40 minutes before anyone acknowledged her again. She used the time to count exits, notice which guards rotated positions, and figure out which door led to the kitchen. Old habits. When you grow up in Songjongdong's lower flats, where the water sometimes runs brown and the landlord sometimes doesn't, you learn to map every room you enter, just in case. The woman who finally walked in didn't announce herself. She didn't need to. Every person in the hallway shifted, not dramatically, not with noise, just a quiet physical recalibration, the way grass bends before wind arrives. Shoulders dropped, chins went down. Even the air seemed to decide to behave. Queen Seo Yunhua walked like someone who had never once considered that a room might not want her in it. She was not what Rosie expected. She'd imagined someone louder, someone who performed power. But Yunhua was the opposite. She was still dressed in deep charcoal. Her expression, the kind of flat that wasn't emptiness, but rather the total removal of anything unnecessary. She looked at people the way a person looks at furniture they're deciding whether to keep. She stopped in front of Rosie. She looked at her for a long time without speaking. "You're the new house staff." It wasn't a question. "Yes," Rosie said. Yunhua tilted her head slightly. "Yes, what?" The hallway went quieter than it already was, which shouldn't have been possible. Rosie understood what was being asked. She'd been briefed loosely by the agency that placed her. Be respectful. Use formal address. Do not make eye contact unless invited. She had planned to follow those instructions. She was here for her sister. She was here for the hospital bill that had turned their lives into a countdown. She had no interest in conflict. But something about the way Yunhua asked, not the words, the architecture behind them, the expectation of crumbling, made Rosie's answer come out the same way it went in. "Yes, I'm the new house staff." One of the guards made a sound. Not a word, just a sound, a sharp exhale that meant oh no. Yunhua didn't react. That was the frightening part. She simply continued looking at Rosie with the same flat, measuring expression. "What's your name?" "Rosie." "Where are you from, Rosie?" "Songjongdong." Something shifted in Yunhua's face, not softening, more like recalculation. "The lower flats." "Yes." She turned and walked toward the window at the end of the hall. "Come here." Rosie followed her. The window looked out over a courtyard where two men were on their knees in the gravel. Not praying, waiting. They'd clearly been there long enough that their posture had started to collapse at the edges. The small surrenders that come before the full one. "Do you know what they did?" Yunhua asked. "No." One of them looked at my personal documents. The other one knew and said nothing. She paused. "Which one deserves more punishment?" Rosie looked at the two men. "The second one," she said. Yunhua glanced at her sideways. "Why?" "The first one made a mistake. The second one made a choice." A long silence. "Everyone who works here," Yunhua said quietly, "kneels when I enter a room. Not because I demand theater. Because I need to know immediately who in my house understands the order of things." Rosie said nothing. "You didn't kneel. You walked in while I was already standing." I didn't know if sitting down would be stranger. That's not why. Rosie didn't answer that, because the woman was right. Yunhua turned to face her fully now. There was something in her expression that hadn't been there before. Not anger, not yet. Something more unsettling. Interest. Most people, she said, when they stand in front of me, I can feel what they want. I can feel them calculating. What answer keeps them safe? What expression costs them least? She studied Rosie's face. I don't feel that from you. I don't have anything to calculate, Rosie said. I need this job. That's all. Everyone who needs something from me is afraid of me. I'm not afraid of you. The hallway was so silent Rosie could hear her own heartbeat. That, Yunhua said softly, is either the most honest thing anyone has said to me in years, or the most dangerous. She walked away, without another word. That night, in the small room assigned to house staff, Rosie sat on the edge of the cot and called her sister. How is it? Nadia asked. Her voice was thin, the way it got when she'd had a long day of not feeling well and was pretending otherwise. Fine, Rosie said. Clean. Quiet. The people. Rosie looked at the ceiling. Complicated. Rosie. Nadia's voice dropped. Please just be careful. Keep your head down. Don't. I know. You always say you know, and then you. Nadia. Rosie's voice was gentle but final. I know. A pause. Then her sister laughed softly. That tired, familiar laugh that Rosie had been holding herself together with for 2 years. Okay. Call me tomorrow. First thing. She hung up and sat in the dark for a while. She thought about the 2 men still kneeling in the gravel. Or maybe not anymore, maybe released by now, or maybe not. She thought about the butler's glasses on the cold floor. She thought about Yunhua's face when she said, I'm not afraid of you. Not the anger Rosie had braced for, but something stranger. She had seen that expression before. Not on powerful people. On lonely ones. Drop a comment. Is Rosie fearless or just too exhausted to be afraid? And what do you think Yunhua is going to do next? Asterisk. The summons came at 6 in the morning. Not through the head of house staff. Not through the usual chain that governed every movement in the compound. A guard knocked on Rosie's door directly, which, she would later learn, had never happened before with a servant. Madam wants you. Now. Rosie washed her face, pulled her hair back, and followed him. She didn't rush. Not out of arrogance. She simply understood that whatever was waiting for her at the end of that walk had already decided what it was going to be. Rushing wouldn't change it. Yunhua was at breakfast. Alone. Which was somehow more intimidating than a room full of guards. She sat at the head of a table long enough to seat 20, eating rice porridge with the focused quietness of someone who had learned to make solitude statement. She didn't look up when Rosie entered. Sit. Rosie sat, not at the far end, not hovering near the door, but a few seats down, within conversation distance. A small thing, but the guard near the wall noticed it, and his jaw tightened slightly. Yunhua finally looked up. You slept. Yes. Most new staff don't sleep their first night. Nerves. She set her spoon down. You didn't seem nervous. I was tired, Rosie said simply. From what? Life. Yunhua studied her. That's a dramatic answer for someone who claims not to perform. It's just true. A pause. Yunhua poured tea, pushed a cup toward Rosie without asking if she wanted any. It was a small gesture. The guard near the wall noticed that too. Tell me about Songjiangdong, Yunhua said. What do you want to know? What it does to a person growing up there. It teaches you that comfort is temporary and danger is permanent. So you stop spending energy being surprised by hard things. Rosie looked at the table. You just move through them. Yunhua was quiet for a moment. Is that why you didn't kneel? I didn't kneel because my knees have hit enough floors that didn't deserve them. Rosie met her eyes. I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'm trying to do my job and go home to my sister. Your sister is sick. Rosie went still. You looked into me. I look into everyone. It wasn't an apology. How long? 14 months. And the treatment? Expensive. The word landed flat and heavy, the way facts do when they've been carried so long they've lost their emotion on the outside while getting heavier on the inside. Yunhua ate in silence for a moment. Then, without looking up, you'll be reassigned to my personal floor today. I was hired for general. I know what you were hired for. Then why? Yunhua set her spoon down. Because everyone in this compound answers my questions before I finish asking them. They laugh when I pause too long near something that might be a joke. They agree before they've heard the sentence. She folded her hands. It is exhausting, ruling people who are too afraid to be real. Rosie said nothing. You told me you weren't afraid of me. Either that's a lie, in which case you're a fascinating liar, or it's the truth, in which case you're the first honest person in this building. She tilted her head. I want to know which one. What does it matter? Because if you're lying, you're dangerous. And if you're telling the truth, a pause, you're something I haven't had in a very long time. What's that? Yunhua picked up her tea. Company. Rosie started on the personal floor that afternoon. It was different from the rest of the compound. Still cold, still spare, but there were small things here that hadn't been emptied out. Books with cracked spines, actually read. A child's drawing tucked inside the wardrobe door, hidden from a room, but kept. A single photograph on the desk, face down. Rosie didn't touch it. She was changing the bedside water when Yunhua appeared in the doorway, jacket off, carrying the particular heaviness of someone who had held authority so long they'd forgotten what it felt like to just stand somewhere without it meaning something. You saw the photograph, Yunhua said. I didn't look at it, but you noticed it. Yes. Yunhua crossed the room, picked it up, held it without turning it over. My daughter. She's 8. She lives with her father. A beat. Far from here. Safer that way. Rosie understood what that meant, not the logistics, but the particular grief underneath. The specific weight of loving someone enough to remove yourself from their life completely. She's lucky, Rosie said quietly. Yunhua looked at her sharply. That you knew the difference, Rosie continued, between keeping her close and keeping her safe. Some people never figure that out. Yunhua said nothing for a long time. Then she set the photograph back down, still face down, and walked to the window. Outside, the courtyard was empty. The gravel raked clean. No men kneeling today. Just space, and late afternoon light doing nothing in particular. My enforcer came to me this morning, Yunhua said. He told me keeping you on the personal floor is a security risk. That he can't read you. That people who can't be read can't be trusted. She paused. He's rarely wrong. Rosie waited. I told him, Yunhua continued, that I would handle it. And how are you handling it? Yunhua turned from the window. For the first time since Rosie had arrived, the flat, careful expression was gone, not replaced by warmth exactly, but by something unguarded. Something that had been kept in a face-down photograph for a very long time. Your sister's treatment, she said. The full cost. It will be paid. Anonymously. By the end of the week. Rosie's breath stopped somewhere in her chest. That's not. I haven't done anything to earn. You haven't, Yunhua agreed. That's exactly why. She straightened her jacket. Everyone in my life is paid to be here or afraid to leave. You are neither. That has a value I cannot calculate, and I have spent 20 years calculating everything. Rosie stood very still, not from fear, from the strange, unfamiliar feeling of being seen clearly by someone, even someone like this. I don't know how to be grateful to someone like you, she said honestly. Good. Yunhua almost smiled, not quite but close. Gratitude makes people soft. I don't need you soft. I need you exactly as you are. She moved toward the door, paused. Same time tomorrow. Don't be late. She left. Rosie stood alone in the room with the face-down photograph and the child drawing tucked secretly in the wardrobe and the books that had actually been read. All the small evidence of a person living quietly inside a monster the world had built. And she felt something she hadn't expected to feel inside this compound. Not safety, not comfort, just the strange, solid weight of two people who had both lost so much that fear had stopped working on them. Finding, in that shared emptiness, something that felt almost like ground. Rosie called her sister that night. Nadia, I have good news. And for the first time in 14 months, she didn't have to choose her words carefully. She just told the truth. Did this story hit different? Drop a comment. What moved you most? Like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a story that refuses to let you look away. You made it to the end. That means something.